Hi.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm terrible. Jack, I'm having a week.
Yeah, me too, kind of, man. But what's going on? Tell me.
I'm terrible, but I'm really, really good. So I'm looking at my audio levels here. I'm just having a week. Yesterday, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So the last thing I bought for my kitchen before I didn't have a kitchen that was mine anymore was this super sharp serrated Japanese bread knife.
That sounds way over the top, and I love it.
Yeah.
Excessive.
So, Ian,
Yeah.
because I'm just like, okay, I need a knife. Let me buy the most ridiculous,
You sound like me when I buy anything.
I need to change.
And I can't afford it.
I need to change the scene. Why don't I buy a boat?
So this was a boat in form of a knife?
Yesterday I was, my silverware sits in a big plastic tray over here because I'm in the basement and we don't have any running water, so I keep some stuff down here. And yesterday I was going through the silverware and I cut my pinky finger open on that big old bread knife.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. Mm-hmm. It happens.
It does, yes.
Right?
Yes.
I also keep a tin of mixed nuts next to me while I, go about my day.
Yeah.
And yesterday, about an hour later, I just took a handful of mixed nuts and I threw them in my mouth, and an almond went in vertically and stabbed me in the soft tissue behind my front teeth and ripped open the soft tissue. It looked like I'd been in a UFC match with blood coming out of my mouth.
Oh, dude.
And I was like, God damn it! And then about an hour later, I was like, I am having a bad day. I am going to have some pudding.
Okay, pudding.
And so I reached in to the silverware to grab a spoon and cut a different finger open on the super sharp bread knife.
Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, but this sounds like a Mr. Bean comedy or something.
And I just stopped bleeding out of two fingers in my mouth. And I was like, why do I get like this? And the thing of it is, I'm traveling probably tonight when we're done recording this podcast. Mm-hmm. And traveling's just a lot of stress for me. I'm meeting someone we've been dating for a little while. There's a lot of newness and excitement and questions there, and I haven't really done that in years and years and years and years.
I'm so excited, but in a vicarious way.
Yeah.
I want to know all the details.
And that part's amazing. Yeah. And I know we're gonna have a great time. But it is just stress. It's good stress, but it's like, oh my gosh. And then there's Darla, the episode script that I'm currently in the, when you're talking about the video cycle, I'm in the almost there. Oh my God, I hate myself. Why do the videos take so long? This is driving me insane. I just want to finish this script. I hate it. Part of the process. Yep. Where I'm like, I had good intentions to get one out in 2 weeks. Then we hit 3 weeks and I was like, it's okay as long as I get it done. And then we hit 4 weeks and I'm like, ugh. So frustrated with myself. My writing process is broken.
But I don't know. It's kind of like maybe that's the way it's gotta be for you to come up with the goods.
I'm never. On the outside, it appears to repeat itself, but I'm constantly working on myself. Okay, so can we try something different? Is there, and recently I have heavily engaged in thinking about process and all right, let's experiment. Down to I have smelly candles that I light when I'm writing so that I can create a Pavlovian response to the candle smell whenever I light it, so I can just be like, oh, now I'm thinking about writing, or now I'm doing the thing, or whatever it is. But it's so frustrating because it's so slow and it's all nonsense that exists beforehand. I can tell everyone about it if they want. But so like this whole week has just been, and then of course we're living in the apocalypse.
We certainly are. We certainly are.
And
that's been grating on me a lot lately. Again,
I've also been sober for 5 months, and drinking was
Congratulations,
Thank
man.
you. Yeah, this is month 6. Drinking was my favorite go-to coping mechanism for stress, and that's not there anymore. I've decided not to confront. I was talking to my roommate Nigel, and I was like, I think I'm going to have to take up drinking again. Because I don't know how to get this ice cream monkey off my back. Because I've been eating a lot. I'm just kidding, of course. But I've been eating a lot of ice cream. And I was finally, I made one running stab at stopping it. And then I was like, you know what? Why don't I wait until, we're not all wearing masks again before I try and confront the ice cream problem. One thing at a time. Let's make... 20 years of hard drinking. I've been off it for 5-6 months. It's like, all right, one life-changing event at a time.
Right. So is it getting easier though? Like
no, it's the last couple months have been harder. But again, it's ebb and flow. And I'm very aware of it. Where it's like, it just surges up.
Yeah.
And I'm
no, I get that though. Because I quit smoking about a year and a half ago now, and I was in bed last night trying to get some sleep, and I can't remember how or why, but I all of a sudden started thinking about cigarettes, and it's been a year and a half, and I have no intention of smoking again, but I was laying there and I had this feeling of, man, a cigarette would be really nice right about now. And the crazy thing about it is, if I had a cigarette right now, even a single drag, it would not be a fun experience. I would get dizzy.
No.
I'd probably cough. I could throw up. It's not going to be fun, but there's still this part of my brain that just associates that with comfort and stress relief and all of those kinds of things.
Well, I definitely have all of that. And... alcohol is not a miserable experience for me,
I mean, it can do if you go a bit too far with it.
yeah, and I mean, ultimately, that was kind of thing. Regardless, it's just been a lot. There's just a lot, and then I go places where I feel like I'm letting people down, or I'm letting myself down, or I'm shortchanging future opportunities, or I could have been comfortable with money, or whatever it is, and it's like I'm so sick of this the script problem. I'm dying for a breakthrough of some kind, and I feel close. Like the recent attack on the problem, which started with Fool for Love, which was like the worst manifestation of my writing problem. Right. Which, I mean, all the work this year has been good. The thing is, looking at the videos, all the videos have been rock solid. But, that's sooner or later I'm going to put out something that's like, that's inevitable. That's a part of the process. And, I
mean, I disagree, but sure.
in that... Well, at the very least, that I will go, And in that cycle, it's like, well, then the month... Anyway, that gets into, rationalizing or justifying the whole thing.
Well, I don't know. I just think, though, for a lot of people, the creative process, some sort of uncomfortable feeling is necessary. At least for me, it is. If I'm doing something creative, I don't want to be completely comfortable. It's almost like the discomfort drives me or pushes me to try something.
In thinking about my process and sort of grappling with everything, I've started to realize that in my head, the idea of what is work or what is self-employment or what is whatever it is has been off. Where in my head I'm like, it's writing, recording, editing, and publishing. That's it. That's all the work. And then at some point, and the problem with that is anytime I was doing anything else around it, it felt like I should be doing the thing that is the job. I should not be doing the Patreon recordings, the Patreon hangouts, the whatever it is. And then I was
But that's all part of it,
and
though,
then
right?
I was like, oh, right, that's part of the job. That's part of the thing. And the thing I've realized is, like, this stress, this, like, worrying about the budget and worrying about, am I getting enough out? Do I have enough to stay? This, that, and the other thing, the procrastination, which is born out of imposter syndrome and self-doubt and all of this. That's all the job, too. That's all part of the job. That's all... Yeah. That's, some people's version of self-employment and creative work doesn't include that, but mine does.
But even, like, I remember at your previous job, you were still struggling with those same issues, though. Like,
I was.
Like you weren't good enough, or you were falling behind and all of those things. So,
yeah. Yeah, but it was just interesting. I was like, the way the writing process stands, all of that, like, combing through the procrastination and the frustration and all of that is a part of it.
Excuse me, sorry. I'm
no, all good. Anyway, I was just saying, like, and then with traveling coming up and having to pack and getting everything prepped and wanting it to be good, and then the anticipation of the trip coming up and so forth. It's like, I get to a point where I cannot be in the moment. I cannot
sometimes
focus
that kind
on
of
what I'm doing.
mindfulness is just impossible.
Yeah. This morning I got up and the smoke detector in the basement here was beeping. Low battery. I'm like, it's 6:30 in the morning. I'm like, I've owned a home.
Life imitates art whatever.
I can change a smoke detector.
Yeah.
And so I went and got 2 batteries, and I stand up on the couch, and I reach up, and I open it up, and I stick the 2 batteries in, and I close it, and the thing goes, beep, low battery. And it's 6:30 in the morning. I'm like, what's the problem? Is there, like, a reset button for the battery? So I push the button on top, which is the test button, which set off every smoke detector in the house, in every bedroom, and at 6:30 in the morning woke up all 10 people that live here.
I don't know if that's life imitates art, but it's life being very ironic.
And I just kind of stood there and went, really? Like, is this the highest level I'm capable? Really? Like, this is slicing open 2 fingers, cutting my mouth on an almond somehow. And then
don't overthink it, man. Sometimes reality is just a dick.
Hello, everyone, by the way. Welcome to the podcast of the Nerds. I'm Ian.
And my name is Jack. Howdy. Welcome.
Jack, what are we doing today?
Today, as usual, we'll be talking about what we've been up to recently. Then I will be introducing you guys and Ian to one of my favorite scenes in all of media. And then we'll be finishing off with a question from a viewer.
Alrighty. Well, that's been one part of the week. There were a couple other things I wanted to tell you about. Another thing. So, dating.
Dating, yes. Right. Yes. Fun times.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about it is like it's funny. Angel season 2 has this very heavy mirror theme that they're doing. There's been mirrors in 4 of the 7 episodes so far. It opens with Angel breaking a mirror that he can only see Team Angel in. He can't see himself. Yeah. And that's the metaphor for that first arc, which is him firing everyone. And the Tish Magev says you're reflected in the people around you. But anyway, it's interesting. So I haven't really dated in 8 years. I've taken running stabs at it.
Yeah, you've done some online dating.
Yeah, but it's more
nothing serious.
It was always something that I did out of a sense of I should be doing this. Which, God,
Yeah.
what a romantic way to meet somebody. I'm here because I
Yeah,
think I
I
should be, not because I particularly...
When we were talking about like stuff like that ages ago, you were saying stuff along the lines of, "Oh, I should be sending this amount of messages per week," and I'm just like,
Well,
"No,
I
it's
was
not."
trying to gamify it, which is what I do with
Yeah.
everything.
But like, it's not math, you know. It's.
Yeah, I mean,
But you kind of have a propensity to. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
No shade, but you like to turn everything
yeah.
into an equation. And that's
gaunt-
okay.
the thing of it is online dating is not dating.
No.
Online dating is a gauntlet to get through to
Yeah,
meet someone and start
It's trying
dating.
to get a date. Yeah. Yeah.
And well, I would not try and gamify dating. The gauntlet that is online dating, I felt like, it's kind of like fitness. Like if I go for a run but I don't track it, I'm like, maybe I did better. I don't know. But like if I track the run and the time and whatever, I'm like, okay, yes, this was a little more improved than yesterday. Like I need the numbers. I'm someone who values.
Yeah,
that's me.
Yeah. And like I said, no shade. That is you. But yeah.
But nonetheless, like you and I have talked about this privately. We called it the deep freeze, where like I couldn't look at a person's profile and be like, oh, wouldn't it, like I bet we'd hit it off, or I was just like, yeah, there's a person. It was a little bit of what was in the Wild at Heart, what Wild at Heart means to me video that I did a while ago, which that video was intended to kind of get me over the hump, and these things are an ebb and flow. So, but anyway, and then someone wanders into your life, and you're like, oh, I've got a feeling.
Yeah. I don't know, the best ones can't come out of nowhere. The best people, like you and I, we became friends, and it kind of came out of nowhere. I don't just mean relationships, at least for me anyway. Like the most valuable or the people that are the most important to me, a lot of them came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean,
including family.
My opinion is, however you find it, even if you need the line from L.A. Story is a pickaxe, a compass, and night goggles to find them, more power to you.
Exactly,
I just was not. I wasn't doing well with the pickaxe, I guess is all I would say. But I know I have friends. I have friends who are married and they met on OkCupid.
I know a lot of people that are either dating or married or whatnot, and they met online, maybe not even through online dating. I have a friend, an online friend that I've known since 2007, and he's one of my best friends. He's a guy from Norway, Chris. Hey, Chris, you're never going to watch this, but hi. But he met his wife on World of Warcraft, of all places.
I love that. I love that, yeah.
Yeah, and they've been together for a long while now, and they live together, and married, and it's all going well.
Well, the interesting thing that I was going to say, the interesting thing is like we're talking about mirrors and reflections and stuff like that. A dating relationship is a level of intimacy that doesn't really. It just is. It's a different level of intimacy, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's a certain amount of, like in our friendship, I may have no barriers with you and I, but with
you and I are very open.
Yeah, but with someone you're dating, there's a different level of vulnerability, I guess.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as we want to, we're not going to lay in each other's arms and talk about mushy things. It could happen.
But the interesting thing is like the ways in which 8 years ago, I hadn't started therapy. I hadn't started like, wow, I'm deeply unhappy. There was a point when I was in San Francisco, I was like, I'm either going to jump off the bridge or I'm going to fix this problem. But I'm sick of feeling sick. I'm sick of feeling lost. something is going to change in this moment. And that was when
Yeah.
I got myself into therapy, and like,
Yeah.
sort of the examined life began at that point, where before I would say it's a lot of, but you just do the best you can. But like, a therapist is sort of like, here are tools to sort of achieve
Yeah.
the version of you that you're looking to.
Yeah. To steal the title and the love of the song, for a while there, you became comfortably numb.
Yeah.
And
Until I
yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah, and until you weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's
that
an
level,
easy pit to fall into, though.
yeah, and that level of closeness, like I've started seeing certain ways that I am reflected back at me, and I'm like, oh, and some of it is fine, but it's just like I am different than I thought. So, for example, I've realized I'm pretty bad at saying goodbye.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that. I have. Like,
You have. I didn't know
when-
that. This is
Well,
new to me
okay.
within the last couple of days, where I'm like, oh,
Especially-
I'm real bad at goodbyes.
It became very apparent to me when we hang out as a group and we do the movie nights. When it comes time to say goodbye, you just get a little like, I don't know how to explain it other than I can feel the awkwardness a little bit, and like it's not bad, but it's kind of a quirk that you have, but you're just like,
Now that I've started to see it, I just noticed there's a switch in a conversation. I'll be having a conversation with someone and I'll be like, I'm done.
yeah,
And I don't... I'm not done with them. It's not a reflection of them. I'm just like,
yeah.
well, see ya. There's a scene in Seinfeld where George, Elaine, Kramer, and Jerry get off the subway, and all of them turn to each other and go, well, and walk away. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that feels so good.
Yeah,
That feels like the goodbye I want to be culturally acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I wish I could explain it better. It's almost like I said before, how you kind of turn things into like an equation. Or it sort of feels just like that. You're like, okay, so I want to leave this conversation out, so I have to say these certain things and whatnot. And it's okay. Don't get me wrong. I love you, man. I love you very much. And I'm not trying to throw shade here. It's
Well,
it's kind of adorable, but see, I don't get those awkward things like that. That's just not a part of who I am. Like, if I'm done, I'll just be like, okay, cool. I'll catch you later. I'm off.
yeah,
Bye.
so what happened was she and I were talking, and it was a great conversation. We talked for I don't know how long, and then, I was like, well, I'm going to go do some things. I'll catch up with you tomorrow, whatever. And I saw the look in her eye where she was sort of like, oh. And I was like, did I miss? I brought it up the next day, and I was like, so, was that a thing? Like, what's the? She's like, oh, you're a little abrupt at the end of the conversations. Like, there's not a gentle sort of like, you're just
That's-
like, oh, I'm done.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is in the group. It's the same way. You kind of do it like a bull in a china shop kind of thing, and
Yeah.
it's not. You're not
No.
rude, and you're not. It doesn't leave me going, well, Ian was just a dick. Like, what the hell was that about? It's nothing like that.
Yeah, it's not. It's not intended. It's not a like.
And it
It's
doesn't
not.
come across
It's not.
as rude.
It's not intended without love. It's just like.
Of course.
You
just
maybe
don't know
it's-
how to get out of those situations.
I despise talking on the phone because I'm very without being able to read people's body language or stuff like that. Like I find it makes me very uncomfortable to talk on the phone. Video chat is better.
Certainly,
But to me, there's still with certain conversations there is an intensity of purpose. If someone calls, they are calling for a reason. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. And when that's done, I'm like, all right, well, I'm glad we had this chat. It's not like I love them less or I care about them less or whatever it is. It's just like we have checked the items off the list.
Again, you turn it into math. I'm sorry. I love you dearly.
We both have stuff to do.
Yeah.
Well, here endeth the conversation.
Right. Yeah.
But the thing of it is, like when you're dating or
It requires a bit of nuance and a little care.
well,
and a
especially
little,
long distance relationships, there's there is an unspoken broader intent to the conversation beyond just let's tell each other about our day or let's finish, and that is let's spend time together.
Yeah.
You know, and that does not have a ending. That does not have a thing. That does not have a. And I mean,
There's no like definitive cutoff point.
yeah,
For that.
and I think that's why in this context it has kind of emerged where I'm like, oh, you know, I also just have like with the ADD and the busy brain crap, like just constant noise and all of this. I'm not always present. I try, you know, I work on it, but sometimes I'm just like, you know, I just get lost for 20 seconds or whatever it is, and you know, so not excuses. I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to understand the phenomena.
It's not an excuse, but it's a reason.
Yeah.
And it's a valid reason. So
Yeah. But the so in my head I'm thinking about like, okay, so what is the gentle? I'm having to teach myself a cultural nicety that I feel like other people have down.
How old are you now? 41.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, this was fun. I had a great time talking to you.
Again, math, dude. It's not math. It's just human interaction. There is no checklist. There is no.
I don't know a way of
process.
learning it without, you know. And the other thing too is like, given my anxiety is what it is now. When we get to the end of the conversation, and I feel that switch flip, where I'm like, okay.
I get it.
And I'm just like, this was fun. I mean, it's just interesting, you know. That's the thing, right? That's the thing about relationships. It's like learning about not just another person, but learning about your own idiosyncrasies, and you know. I could ask her to adapt to the cold clothes, or I could try to be like, you know, and this seems like one of those instances where it behooves me to try, to be like, okay, so this is a good chat, but I'm so awkward. Someone asked on in the Facebook group, what is the first? And I'm asking you this question too. Who is the first fictional character you ever saw that made you feel seen?
I saw that post last night.
Yeah, it was a great question. I didn't see your reply. Mine was George McFly from Back to the Future, who made me feel like my internal life was made flesh as a human being. All his anxiety and so you're gonna go and touch her on her. You know, very much, and I still identify with George McFly, even if I present in a way that he does not. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, you are the total opposite of George McFly. Let me tell you.
On the outside, that's why I say internal life.
Yeah. For me, because sorry, what?
No, fictional character that made you feel seen.
So this was a struggle for me because I'm really bad at introspection and all of those kinds of things. And I thought about it for a while.
You are not bad at introspection. I'm not letting you get away with that. But go ahead.
I feel like I'm really bad at understanding myself and my inner. All right.
You're bad at it in the way that everyone is poor at understanding themselves. If they begin to seek to try and understand themselves, which many people don't. Hence the id, personality-driven, emotional-driven, just pure. Not that it's bad to be driven by emotions. What I'm saying is the unexamined life. You do not live the unexamined life. But go ahead.
No, I don't live the unexamined life. But it's kind of like if someone was like, "Tell me about yourself," I'd be like, I like Buffy and turkey sandwiches." Like, I don't freaking know, man. Like, I don't know. I don't think I'm good at it, but thanks. I appreciate that.
All right.
Maybe I'm okay at it, but it requires like half an hour of muddled nonsense before I can strip it all the way and then get to who and what I am. I don't know. I think too much. I think. Anyway, sorry. So I thought about it, and then I was like, oh, the first film where I felt seen, and that was Dizzy Harrison from a little film called The New Guy, played by DJ Qualls. This was early 2000s, and basically, this dude. He's a teenager at high school. He's a massive loser, gets bullied, and all this horrible stuff happens. And then he goes to a new school, and Eddie Griffin helps him become like super cool and super fly and all of this stuff. Super fly? Who has said that since like 1976? But anyway, so. But the film is about he goes to the new school and be's this cool dude. Then he realizes that it's all bullshit, and then by the end he becomes himself again. But I related to that a lot as a kid because I was a bit of a loser, if I'm being honest. I wasn't cool, and that was pretty much the first time I think that I felt seen. I just high school sucked for me. But yeah.
Yeah. Junior high school was bad for me. But high school, this last 2 years of high school, I discovered theater, which is the only reason that we talk about the difference between presenting like George McFly or George McFly being the internal life and presenting well. For me, the difference is probably just theater. Being a theater kid, you develop an external persona.
I did theater in high school, but we called it drama here, and I loved it. It was a great, it was a lot of fun.
By the way, that criticism has been levied against me as well, which is think too much. And I have come full circle with it, where I when I was younger, I sort of overvalued my intellect and then flogged things with it and found it didn't make me happier. And I was like, oh, okay. So I got to learn to understand these emotions thing, and have been going through that process. But and eventually I ended up to a point where I was like, I think too much. I think I'm too whatever. Now I think that might be nonsense. I think that certain people are just different. I have friends who don't sit and do the self-examination thing and are married and happy and own places and are working well and have all the trappings of success and comfort and all of that. And I have, but that's not me. I didn't inherit that. I didn't get that. I didn't get that role. It's like Archer and Sterling, the two young boys here. One of them's 4, the other one's 6. They could not be more different. One of them is a bulldozer that runs into walls and demands exactly what he wants all the time. And the other one is quiet, soft-spoken, will occasionally do something wrong and feel so guilty about it, he goes and stands in the corner and cries silently. Yeah. And they do not have enough accumulated life experience to explain the differences between the two of them. Neither of them come from a broken home. It's been the same place, the same parents, the same siblings, like stable, pretty stable. So to some degree, one of them may have been born very sensitive and introspective, and the other one is the next president of the United States.
Yeah.
They both rolled for, one of them, they rolled a 20-sided die for intelligence, emotion, strength, whatever, based on the criteria, the range that their parents gave them. And they came up with 2s or 20s or 18s or whatever. I got the one that has this turned on constantly, right?
Right, yeah.
So the distinction that I've started to make is like, I'm just going to, if I don't manage the thought, it will inevitably go. But it's going to be spent on garbage. It's going to be spent on self-hatred. It's going to be spent on anxiety. It's going to be spent on... So what I try and do is redirect it productively to be like, okay, so like in a situation like my insecurities when it comes to dating, it's like they're going to come up. I'm not like, oh, I'm thinking too much, because that's blaming me for having the self-hating thought of, what if I'm a bad kisser, for example, right?
Okay.
That thought's just going to come up,
Yeah.
So was that a choice that I had that thought? Am I thinking too much? Well, by one interpretation, sure. But I can also take a moment and be like, I have no idea how this is going to go. I have no idea. I have friends who wouldn't have had that thought. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you.
Therefore, they don't think too much, but I do. Like, I think the amount that I'm going to think, and that can be,
Right.
but I can manage that and direct it in a healthy fashion, or it can be driven by all that insecurity and anxiety and all of that.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And so, like, I feel as though, like, I do try to understand myself, and I try to have, like, introspective thought, and I'm very, I'm, especially for the last couple of years, trying to understand why I do the things that I do, why I have the certain thought patterns that I do, the anxieties and insecurities that I have, and I will often sit and just mull it over, but I just feel like I never reach any kind of conclusion. I never find an answer, and that's why I feel like I suck at the introspective stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think early on, like, it just helps to have, like, one of the things we're talking about reflections. One of the things about a therapist is, like, they provide a mirror to sort of, like, sort through that stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, nothing corrects itself in a vacuum. But I mean, on the other hand, there that also you're also just on the journey that you're on.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, us human beings, we're constantly evolving. Like,
Right.
I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. Hey, I'm not the same person I was at the start of this year. Honestly, I have grown more this year than I have in the previous 32.
This may have been a big growth year for a lot of us. That's what I like.
Yeah.
Deep confrontation.
Not just the apocalypse, but I've also had some personal stuff happen that's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I've become more confident. I've fought some demons and shaken off some cancers and whatnot, and don't get me wrong, things are still tough, and I'm starting therapy soon myself.
Yeah. Well, we're never done.
yeah.
I mean, that's
Exactly.
we're never done.
Exactly.
It's just
They're
like,
constantly evolving, and that's why, like, you may think you figure yourself out or something, but in a couple of years, you're going to be a completely different
Right.
person again.
I didn't mean to jump on that so strenuously. It's just like,
No, it's fine.
the more I thought about it, the more I was, you can get through a job interview fearlessly, or you can, ask someone to marry you without contemplating if they say no, or you can do all these things. More power to you, like, wonderful. But we're all different.
But you're still kind of bullshitting yourself at the end of the day too, because like that person could say no
Sure.
to the marriage
Well, I mean,
proposal
the idea
and
of being
whatnot.
present is like sort of letting the inevitabilities sort themselves out, and to just be brave in the moment, which
Yeah.
But on
Which I've done quite a bit as of late.
yeah, it's been that kind of year, right?
Yeah, it really has.
But on the other hand, I think too much just becomes more self-hatred to me. it just becomes more of a reason to be like,
Same.
God, stop it. Just stop it. As opposed to like, you know.
One of many things we have in common,
Yeah.
my friend. Yeah.
Um,
Same stuff.
Well, I completely went off what we had planned to talk about in this particular section because I felt like what I was talking about was a little bit more interesting. I had I also sold
I'm editing
something.
now, so we can talk as long as we want.
That's sort of a little bit about how my week has been going. What have you been up to this week?
Well, I've had a sort of a mixed bag of a week.
It seems like that's going around.
Yeah. So we haven't done a podcast in a couple of weeks now.
We missed last week. Yeah.
Yeah, and we planned to film the other day, but we just had stuff going on, and I couldn't sleep, and then I slept in, and yeah, crazy stuff. But
Yeah.
last time I spoke about the whole bed bug ordeal, and that's more or less sorted now. I've had 2 pest control treatments, and I'm just hoping that it works. So far, so good, but I have been told I might need one more treatment. I really hope not, because I'm already down $346. Luckily, they're letting me pay it off, so it's not a big chunk of money, but it's still $346, man.
Yeah.
But I think I mentioned how I had to pack up a lot of my stuff and put it in storage. I've got all my stuff back. I've started unpacking. You see this very specific frame because outside of here, it's chaos. But I'm working on it. I'm getting on it.
I saw a tweet from a woman who had appeared on CNN as a specialist, and her background was very organized. And it was her tweet, and she said, "Just so you don't think I'm dishonest," and it was a shot from the
saw
side.
that this morning.
Yeah, it was a shot from the side, and you see the rest of the room, and it's covered in toys and all of that.
She was in her underwear or something.
Yeah, we're all just getting by. That's all. We're all just getting by.
Exactly.
No one knows what they're doing.
Yeah. But some good stuff came out of it. Like I've rearranged some furniture and stuff, and done some things I've been meaning to do for years. I've put my computer on a much larger desk, so I've got more room, and I've set up my television as a second monitor, which you have been prodding and poking me to do for a while now, because my television hadn't been used in probably 4 or 5 years, because I never watched TV. I had a PS3 a while ago, but once I bought a high-end gaming PC, I never used it, so I sold it. And my television has just been sitting there collecting dust. So now I've got it set up as a second monitor, and it's really helpful.
It's really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like the whole thing again is just it was just a super stressful process, and like I had to. Part of getting rid of bed bugs is you have to wash every garment of clothing, every curtain, every towel, and whatnot. And here in my building, we have communal laundries. There's one on each floor. And for pretty much this whole year, the washing machines on my floor keep breaking down. And seriously, I've washed more clothing in a sink than I have in a freaking washing machine this year.
That's rough.
And so they broke down on the day that I was getting all my washing done. And so I got in touch with my landlord, and I'm like, look, it's super important. I need to do this washing. And then we're like, oh, we'll send someone to check it out. So like 20 minutes later, I got a call from a dude, and it's like, oh yeah, I just fixed the washing machine, blah, blah, blah. And I go and check, and it's still freaking broken.
Wrong floor.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
I don't know, wrong something. But then, long story short, they were kind of dicks about it for a while, but then they let me go on to another floor and do all of my washing and stuff. And yeah, I don't know. It's pretty much over now, I guess. I just need to slowly unpack and do all of that stuff. So yeah, it's just been a stressful time. And then on top of that, now this is a completely first world problem. So let me just preface that, because like I know this is very first world problem, but I was hanging out with my D&D group because we play D&D online. I joined a group a while ago through a mutual friend of ours. And all of a sudden, the left earphone on my high-end, quite expensive headset just abruptly stopped working. I'm like, really? Like this is the cherry on top of the shit cake. And so I tried everything to fix it, uninstall drivers, do all that stuff, and then so I get in touch with SteelSeries, the manufacturer, and the first response I get is, you should try uninstalling, reinstalling drivers. I'm like, cool,
Yeah.
that's the process, but like, I'm a tech savvy dude. That's like the first thing.
Yeah,
You know?
I've done telephone tech support though. It's the worst job in the world.
It's a script, and they have to follow a process. I get that, but long story short, after a bit of a back and forth, because it's still under warranty. I only bought the headset in February this year. They're sending me a new one, but and so like I got to give props to SteelSeries customer service because they were really really good. The new headset is on its way, but part of the warranty process was I had to destroy the old headset, and it felt so strange. So it was kind of like
Did you have to send them a picture of it destroyed?
Yeah, destroyed. And they wanted like a picture of the left side, a picture of the front side, and like it was a whole bunch of pictures. I've still gotten it here because they told me not to throw it away until I get the new headset. But
But they told you to break it before you get the new headset.
well, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. I had to break it before they would give me the coupon to order a new one.
See, in the States, you would have sent it back.
Yeah, I mean, that was an option, but I think because they sent me the warranty instructions and they said I might have to destroy it or send it back. And maybe because of COVID and everything, they just thought, screw it, just wreck it and show us. But it felt kind of good and liberating, but it also felt very wrong and gross. And again, I gotta give credit to SteelSeries because it wasn't easy to break. Like it wasn't super hard, but it wasn't easy. It's a strong build quality, but yeah. So it was fun but weird. But yeah, a new headset is on the way. But but some good stuff that's happened, or one good thing that's happened recently. Now, this might be a little bit of a rant. I'm gonna try and condense it and to not get too muddled. But it's me we're talking to here, so we'll see what happens.
All good.
So over here we have this thing called the National Disability Insurance Scheme. It's and from Wikipedia. Then the National Disability Insurance Scheme is an insurance support scheme of the Australian government that funds costs associated with disability. Legislated in 2013, but didn't come into full effect until 2020. And so using the word insurance is a little misleading because with insurance you pay a premium, a monthly premium, and then if something goes wrong, the insurance company helps you. I don't have to pay any premium for this, but as I said, what it is I get funding for different supports related to my disability. So about a month ago now, I went into what is called a planning meeting, where I basically say all the stuff I need, and then the person who runs the meeting, she kind of works for the NDIS, but then she basically writes a report and then takes it to a delegate from the NDIS who then approves or denies all the stuff I've asked for. And I received confirmation the other day that I basically got everything I asked for, which is great.
Yeah, good deal.
Yeah, last year, the big thing for me last year was I was trying to get a new wheelchair.
Yeah.
And what happened was the way that works. Sorry, I'm getting muddled here.
No, it's okay.
The way that works is with the expensive items, you have to go out with an occupational therapist. Shout out to my OT Sally who watches these, and then you pick a wheelchair, and then you have to submit another report to the NDIS, and the OT has to make the argument of like this person needs this specific piece of equipment because a cheaper option will not be appropriate for this reason and that reason and whatnot. Because the NDIS, well, with any government thing, they're always trying to cut costs and get cheaper things and whatnot. So yeah, getting the wheelchair was a freaking nightmare because it just took ages, and then
I remember how excited you were when you did get it.
Yeah. And it was just, it took so long, and I just feel like it's more complicated than it needs to be. But anyway, whatever. So I got approved for my funding this year. I got everything I wanted, and I think I have a support budget of $70,000 this year, which is really good. But that's not, I don't just now get a check for $70,000.
Sure.
It's not deposited into my bank or anything. A lot of it is already allocated to physiotherapy, a psychologist, and a bunch of other stuff. And I do, I can buy like some low cost things that I need. So like, for example, I've bought an electric pump for my wheelchair tires and stuff like that. But so I can do things like that, but I can't just go and spend $1,000 at Sideshow Collectibles or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, so the NDIS, it's I always get really nervous around planning time because I don't like going in and being like, hey, I'm disabled, can I have free stuff, please?
Yeah.
It makes me feel weird and gross, and I hate it.
It's kind of weird that they make you sing for your supper. You know what I mean?
Kind of
like
what it's like.
I mean,
yeah.
I we have a very big divide in this country between people who believe in universal health care and those who don't. And it would be difficult for me. I think the argument would have to be made for by the person who didn't believe in universal health care, which is not where I fall. Because I think that those sorts of... It seems to me there are ways of building in protections for the money, which I think is what they're looking to do, that don't involve a talent show.
Yeah,
you know.
And also they do have to be careful because you don't want people spending money
of course
that they shouldn't be spending on things they shouldn't be spending on. Yeah.
But it's just a weird... It seems like, I mean, there is no perfect system, of course, but it's weird...
I think the biggest problem is there is a lot of bureaucratic red tape surrounding it and a lot of process, and I think it's just more complicated than it needs to be, but I don't know what goes into creating a scheme like that, so I don't know. But like I'm really happy about it, and now things are settled and I can relax because it can be very, very annoying. But actually, one good thing. So I'm getting a new bed at some point. But this is like a fancy bed that goes up and down. The back comes up and it's got a little remote control and stuff. But that'll be another thing where we go and look at beds, pick one, and then we submit a report. And then I forget about it and wait either a long time or a short amount of time for the NDIS to approve it. But I'm super excited because... the bed I have right now, it's a bed and it's fine, but it's not very comfortable, and I have a bad back, and so there are days I wake up with a sore back, and I'm like, well, I should be working out right now, but my back is killing me, so I'm not going to do that.
Seems like bad back is like the shorthand description of what spina bifida is.
Yeah. I love that. I'm gonna write that down and quote that at some point. Yeah, that's the very, very basics of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, based on the
Bad.
way for those not listening, I'm not just being insensitive. I asked Jack to describe to me the nature of what he deals with offline the other day, and the way you explained it to me, it was like it's all about the back, and specifically, yeah. Anyway, it
It's
just struck me that was
it's a messed up spine that causes a shitload of nerve damage is what it is.
yeah.
Spina bifida is Latin for split or divided spine, and very, very basically means there is a gap in my spine. I think I said that on the first podcast, but I am the king of repeating myself.
Yeah,
So
me too.
welcome to the show,
I've been
ladies and gentlemen.
subjecting them to repeated stories for 26 years, or 26 episodes. The this year just feels like 26 years because of the the whole deal. Well, we always I always prefer to chat than our so let's
Yeah, the proper segments.
then the proper segments. I want to do the segment that you are producing, and then we're gonna skip mine today and go right into the reading.
Oh,
So what did you have planned for us today?
well, so Ian,
Yes,
a little
Jack.
while ago, you showed me one of your favorite scenes, and we talked about it.
Valorie's
Letter,
Letter. Yeah, from
from
V for
V
Vendetta.
for Vendetta. You did a reading of it that we listened to, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So yeah, in that same vein of things, I wanted an opportunity to share with you and the audience one of my favorite scenes. This is a scene from Sons of Anarchy, Season 7, Episode 10, Faith and Despondency. I won't go into the show itself too much. I love the first couple of seasons, then after that it goes off the rails a bit, or a lot. But anyway, what we're going to watch, this is a scene between Tig, a member of the Sons of Anarchy motorcycle gang, played by Kim Coates, and Venus, a trans woman played by Walton Goggins. I haven't watched the series in a while, and I've only watched it once, but initially, I believe what happens is Tig sort of becomes enamored with Venus, and they have like a sexual relationship of sorts, but that just kind of escalates and then leads to this scene that we're about to watch. Of course, due to copyright issues, we can't show the scene, but we'll leave a link in the show notes, either on YouTube or wherever else we're going to host the podcast. And so what I suggest is you pause us, go and watch the scene for yourself, and then come back, and yeah, we'll be having a chat.
Yeah, I have not watched this one before. I did not do
That's
a reading,
correct.
so this will be me watching it for the first time. Oh, that was great.
Yeah, it's it gives me the feels every single time, man. You know, there's so much to love about that scene
Yeah.
for me. First of all, Walton Goggins and Kim Coates give such an incredible, heartfelt performance. I really get the feeling that they really cared about this scene and the characters that they were playing, and I think that really shines through. I think if it were done by lesser actors, it could have come across as kind of cheesy. It could have fallen flat, but it's just done really, really well. But yeah, like I've only watched the show through once, and as I said, sorry, but
It's interesting. It's like I kind of want that scene to just live in my head that way. I don't want to know how they got there. I don't want to know where they go afterwards. Like
Yeah.
that. The whole idea for the one perfect scene thing, which we never really cauterized or codified, was to me. I think that's a nice embodiment of it. Yeah, where it's like
because it doesn't matter what came before or
doesn't matter
afterwards.
what came before or after. And the thing that I
Right.
kind of like about that is, it's impossible for me to to know. By the way, there's a theater outside my door here, and there's a movie playing out there. If you're getting sound from that, I apologize. It's impossible for me to through the Buffy guide, we've talked a lot about representation and all of that, and you know, me being me and not needing to dive into stories or experiences of people other than myself who look like this very often. It's been a huge learning experience for me to write for the episode guide, to think about Gunn, to think about the first Slayer, and to think about you know, those kinds of characters and the ideas of representation and stuff like that. But I think like one of the goals of representation is when the stories no longer become about just being that minority or being that, you know, right. I think that we need those. We need those. We need those stories. But I think also one component of that is just seeing two people in love, or you know,
exactly.
You know, I think you need both, absolutely, and you know, hopefully we're seeing more stories about, you know, I mean, you know, to say even use the word minority is weird, because you're talking about, you know, people in a wheelchair or racial minority. It's so broad, but you're just talking about that whole idea we were talking about before of, you know, people feeling seen or seeing themselves in characters, or saying, and you can. I don't need a white guy in order to do that, but nonetheless. But I think that scene stood out to me as interesting because, you know, again, it was just two people.
Exactly.
You know, in that scene, which I think is an important component of proper, you know, spectrum representation.
Yeah, look, I'm a straight white cis dude, so I'm not claiming to speak for any group or whatnot, but like that scene in portraying it as just two people who love each other, it kind of, we're talking about visibility. It sort of gives visibility to trans people, and it normalizes it and normalizes trans relationships and shows it in this really beautiful and meaningful light. And I just think that's very important.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah, and that's the second thing I've seen Walton Goggins in that is other than Justified.
Okay.
Where he plays Boyd. We talked about Boyd in Justified when we were talking about our ideal masculinity.
All right.
Our ideal. No, we were talking about our ideal. We were talking about fashion, and I sort of like Boyd sort of idealizes the sort of masculine coif to me. And seeing him in this was great. He's wonderful. I think he's dude needs more work.
Yeah. But yeah, another thing I really loved about it is, like, you know, like Venus has fallen in love with Tig, but she believes that he's basically using her for thrills or whatever. But then Tig surprises her by essentially turning around and saying that he loves her too. And I don't know how to explain it other than to say it's just so pure and it's so selfless. And we were talking about before about visibility and whatnot, and how it gender and all of that thing and all of those things simply don't matter here in this scene, because we just have two people.
It's about their relationship.
Love each other.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. They're just trying to sort out the way in which they relate to each other, and that, you know, the circumstances of that could have been many different things. It happened that you know, he talked about his the crisscross in which he finds himself and accepting himself and so forth, you know, but it could have been a long distance relationship. It could have been a number of other things. What I got was two people trying to figure out a complicated relationship.
Exactly. And look, I love I love the trans visibility and the normalizing of it and all that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because it's just two people
Yeah.
who love each other.
Yeah, and
it's just amazing.
the scene exuded a very nice warmth, which I think you can't fake.
Yeah,
There's a warmth and a chemistry and an honesty to it that I really enjoyed.
exactly. That's why I said, like, I really think they truly cared about their characters, and that scene clearly meant a lot to them because it didn't seem like acting. It really didn't. They both went to some place where they were able to get the emotion or something. But yeah, like just incredible performances, and Kim Coates and both Walton Goggins are amazing. Tig is actually my favorite character in the show. He is really cool, and but yeah, I just wanted to show you that and share it with
Yeah.
the audience because it's beautiful and it just means a hell of a lot to me. I think it's a wonderful scene.
Well, we should ask you guys. Is there a scene? So we've now done V for Vendetta. We've done
Yeah.
Sons of Anarchy. Do you have a scene from a particular movie or television show that you feel like is just a perfect scene that you'd love us to watch?
That is a wonderful idea.
Yeah, to have a conversation about. Not necessarily. Again, I think what's interesting about this exercise is sort of like scenes that transcend the context or can be enjoyed out of the context. So drop a comment down below
Yeah.
or shoot us an email at
Yeah.
thepassionofthenerd@gmail.com.
Yeah,
And
or come and hit us up on Twitter or something. Yeah, definitely, because I would love to do that. That could be a lot of fun.
yeah, part of the reason there wasn't a podcast last week was, Jack and I had kind of off weeks together. There was a lot of Destiny 2, maybe not a lot of other stuff, and we just didn't
Yeah.
feel like it would have made it for a
Yeah.
particularly interesting discussion for
Yeah.
you all.
Yeah.
And I realized that means we end up skipping a reading, and I've been
Yeah.
trying to decide whether or not I should just, in those cases, we should put out a reading without context. But
Yeah.
if you have ideas or things that you'd love us to chat about, by all means, let us
Yeah.
know.
And yeah, like if you and I are off and we don't feel like we have a lot to talk about, we don't want to release something that we're not happy with,
Right.
that we feel is subpar. Obviously, it's never gonna be perfect. Like I was kind of unhappy with the last podcast, but that's all my insecure nonsense that means nothing. I'm sure it was totally fine. I'm just a big self-loather. But yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah, and I'd
let's do
rather
that.
put out the podcast infrequently, but the discussions be more fun to listen to than to just
Exactly.
nail the
Quality over
release.
quantity.
Yeah.
Any day. Yeah.
Well, great. So yeah, let us know if there's a particular scene you love, and we can seek that out and maybe have that discussion later on down the line. Although I don't know, I think maybe also it helps to have someone representing the perspective of the scene or the love for the scene in the discussion. But we can play with it, experiment, and see what's possible.
Yeah.
Well, before we get to the
definitely.
fanfic reading, I just want to let you know that I'm at Ian Nitram on Twitter.
And I'm at Lack of Surprise 1. That's all one word with the number 1 at the end.
And, it occurs to me now, I say youtube.com/passion of the nerd. The link to the podcast YouTube channel is in the show notes if you're listening to the audio version. If you'd like to support the channel and keep us in...
Bed knobs and broomsticks.
I'm trying to think of what we... we'll just say therapy.
Yeah,
Fees.
therapy.
You can do so at patreon.com/passion of the nerd. With $5 and up club, you can join us in the hangout. In I think it's less than 2 weeks, we'll be talking about Buffy versus Dracula and the Angel episode Judgment. We're starting those. We're starting season 5 too. Or you can grab yourself something.
Or you can grab yourself something from passionofthenerd.com/store. T-shirts, hoodies, mugs, phone cases, all of the regular stuff you'd expect to find in an online store. You can go and grab yourself some sexy swag, and you'll be supporting us.
All right, let's go to the fanfic reading now. Here is Gone by Terri Botta, Chapter 30. And again, I'm recording tonight and there's a little bit of background audio, so I apologize for that. Spike spent the next 2 days bundled up in gauze and ace wrap on a cot set up in the Summers basement. Deemed too injured to care for himself by Joyce, Buffy was ordered to make him comfortable downstairs till he could function on his own. He had only brief, hazy memories of those 48 hours, and most of them were of someone shoving blood down his throat. After 2 days, vampire healing had mended him enough for him to be able to stand on his own and speak without coughing up blood. He was still weak, though, and his newly closed wounds would reopen and spill blood if he moved the wrong way. As such, he spent most of his time lying down on the couch, with the living room curtains drawn securely shut, watching television. On the 4th day, he fell asleep during General Hospital and was awakened by the thundering horde of estrogen that was the Summers household, arriving home. In the past 96 hours, he had witnessed firsthand what it was like to live with 3 strong-willed women, one of whom was a full-bore adolescent, and all of his fantasies of what life would be like, were he to be welcomed into the Summers' inner circle, were shattered completely. To be honest, he wasn't certain any man could live it and survive. Between the constant yammering and fighting over the bathroom and the female hormones floating around, he was amazed that he hadn't gone completely insane. Still, he quickly learned the value in making himself as small and quiet as possible so he wouldn't get dragged into another snit between the girls or the girls and their mother. Huddling down in his blankets, he did his best to imitate a pile of discarded laundry, tossed on the couch with only the top of his head and his eyes exposed. If I just lay low and keep my mouth shut, they might not notice me. "Spike, you're upstairs!" Dawn cried happily, rushing over. Oh, balls. The teen immediately began fussing over him. "How are you feeling? Are you in any pain? Do you need anything?" "I'm fine, Bit. Just resting and watching telly," he whispered, trying to make himself sound worse than he actually was. "Well, you look better, and your voice is way stronger." "I'll be ready to go back to my crypt soon," he hedged, hopefully. "Not tonight, you won't be," Joyce said, appraising him with a mother's eye and seeing right through him. He did his best to look innocent. "Mom has a date," Dawn announced, flopping onto the couch. Spike looked at Joyce and smiled. "Does she now? Getting back in the singles scene, eh, Joyce?" "More like single with children," Joyce replied, concern and uncertainty in her voice. "Mom got 3 new dresses today, just for her date. Mom, go put them on." "They're really nothing special or fancy," Joyce tried, but Dawn was insistent. "Mom, please, I want to see them. Besides, we need to make sure they're appropriate attire for a first date." "Where did you learn to talk like that, young lady?" Joyce asked, incredulous. Dawn fixed her baby browns on her mother and blinked. "Society and values in history class." Joyce rolled her eyes and gave in. All right. Yay, I'll help," Dawn said, enthused, hopping off the couch, grabbing shopping bags, and dashing up the stairs. Shaking her head, Joyce followed, leaving Buffy alone with him. She looked at him, and he looked at her, but she did not come close. She'd been quiet and civil during his time here, not snarky or argumentative, and for that he was grateful. She kept her distance, but was there if he needed anything, and she didn't hesitate to help if he required something. She didn't mention his loving her, and neither did he. Buffy was well into denial, and he was too damaged to get into an emotional tete-a-tete with her. Considering how things had happened before, however, this time around was a vast improvement. At least this time the encounter with Drew hadn't resulted in his chaining Buffy to a wall, offering to kill Drew or threatening to let Drew kill her. And his invite to the Summers' house being revoked. Not that having Drew use him as a butcher's block had been all that pleasant, nor was it something he would ever want to experience again. But those wounds would heal. This time, he was still welcome in the Summers' home, albeit warily, and he had 2 out of 3 Summers women doting on him like mother hens. "You do look better," Buffy said, shaking him out of his thoughts. "I mean, you still look dead, but for a while there you look deader than dead. I can see a definite improvement." "Thanks ever so." She fell silent and looked uncomfortable for a few moments. "So anything good on TV?" Spike shook his head. "Just news and soaps. And you know how soaps are. Stop watching for 2 months, you come back to find the same characters suffering the same torments, only now they know they're all secretly related." Buffy giggled and her shoulders relaxed. He found that if he could make her laugh, she would let down her guard a bit and stop trying so hard to figure him out. "Any is Timmy a real boy yet?" she teased. He gave her a grin. "Nope, still a doll, but he's hoping." "Oh, say, what time is it?" Buffy looked at her watch. 4:12. "Oh, BBC America was running a Changing Rooms marathon," he remembered, grabbing the remote and changing the channel. Buffy wrinkled her nose. "Changing Rooms? Is that anything like Trading Spaces, that TV show where 2 neighbors destroy rooms in each other's houses and get designers to help?" No, this is the original show that had neighbors destroying each other's rooms. Sudden Trading Places was just you Yanks stealing our idea because you couldn't come up with an original one on your own. Is it funnier than Trading Spaces? I mean, I saw an episode where the woman designer put moss all over these people's bedroom wall. She came closer, and he made room for her on the other side of the couch. "It's brilliant. I love it when the people hate it and they cry. Saw that Ponce Lawrence get shoved into a pool once. It was great." She perched on the very edge of the couch as the program returned from commercials to rejoin the red team in the midst of converting someone's attic bachelor pad into a Costa Rican love nest. "Ew, that is the brightest shade of orange I've ever seen in my life," Buffy commented. "They're British, pet. We never get to see the sun, so bright colors look wonderful to us." The camera closed in on a second can of paint, this one deep turquoise. "Ew, are they colorblind too?" Spike just chuckled and settled in to watch Buffy react to the show. She was so caught up in being repulsed by British fashion sense that she didn't notice that he was staring at her. She was so expressive and alive that he almost started to cry. He'd missed her vibrant personality so much after Willow had resurrected her. It was a gift to see it now. A few minutes later, Joyce came down to model her first dress and the television was turned off. Spike made more room on the couch, and he and Dawn and Buffy played audience to Joyce's modeling. The first 2 dresses were very nice, but the third was a knockout. It was a long black slip dress with a calf-length slits up each side and painted lilies on the front. "What do you think?" Joyce asked, taking a small spin in front of them. "I might like it more than the others. Could you spin again?" Buffy answered. Joyce obliged and spun once more. "Oh, I'm not sure. Once more," Dawn said. Joyce turned and Spike caught the mischievous glints in the girl's eyes. "Now could you spin the other way?" Buffy requested innocently, and Spike had to bite the inside of his cheek to keep from laughing. Joyce started to turn in the opposite direction, but then stopped, wising up to her daughter's antics. "You're messing with me." Dawn and Buffy giggled. "We just wanted to see how many times we could get you to do that," Buffy admitted. "Was that 5 or 4.5? Dawn joked. "So, is anyone going to talk about the dress?" Joyce asked. "It's very nice, Joyce. Like that one on you," Spike replied. Joyce put her hands on her hips. "You said that about the other 2 dresses, Spike." Spike shrugged. "It's true, though you do look particularly radiant in that one," he smoothed, turning on the charm. She flushed and looked pleased. "I like it," Dawn said definitively. Joyce suddenly became uncertain. "You're sure? It's not too, mommish?" "Oh, that was why I liked it," Dawn said. You're You're both crazy. It's not mommish at all, Buffy insisted. It's sexy. It screams, Randy Sex Kitten, buy me one more drink and I'll... She paused and grimaced. Wait, that's not really good either. Joyce looked to Spike and he knew he was in trouble. Spike? It's definitely a dress a mature, attractive woman such as yourself would wear. Joyce sighed. Oh, I'm so glad you agreed to... Oh, God, what time is it? 4:23, Buffy replied, looking at her watch. You have lots of time till 7. Vast acres of time in which you could plant crops. Now tell me about this Brian and what his intentions are. Yeah, Mom. There was this mystery man who wants to sweep you off your feet, Spike piped up, enjoying Joyce's nervousness. Maybe he's a gigolo. Was his shirt all shiny? Dawn asked, worried. Could you see his chest there? Was he wearing lots of gaudy jewelry? The rings will give him away every time, Spike added seriously, but his eyes were laughing. No, he works at a publishing house. A nice, normal guy, okay? Joyce explained. I met him my first day back at the gallery when I was still kinda shaky. You know, starting over. He asked a question about these antique cameos, and I was so lost because Carol did the ordering while I was sick. But it turned out he didn't know anything about them either, so we had a lot to talk about. So what's the plan for tonight? Dawn questioned. Dinner and then a movie. Or maybe it was a movie then dinner, which might be better because then we can talk about the movie. Or maybe a movie isn't good at all because you can't talk during, and then what's the point of it? Also, what kind of restaurant? One with candles and romantic music, or is that pushing it? Joyce answered, unsure. I think a date should be in a real fancy restaurant, then champagne at a nightclub with floor show, then ballroom dancing, Dawn said. Unfortunately, we're not dating in a movie from the 30s. Spike? Joyce asked, pinning him with a worried, expectant gaze. Spike squirmed and punted. When in doubt, remind him you're a vampire. Oh, I don't know, Joyce. In my time, a good time for me and Drew was eating the floor show in the nightclub Bit was talking about. Joyce rolled her eyes and looked to her eldest. Buffy, what do you think? Should I try and make things romantic or sort of let him set the pace? Oh, no. Dr. Love Buffy is not in. I'm not qualified to give dating advice. Seriously, Joyce, it's all about chemistry. If this Brian bloke and you have it, then you'll know what to do, he offered. Joyce wrung her hands and bit her lip. Oh, God. Brian, what time is it now? 4:24, 1 minute after you asked us the last time. You sure this dress is okay? Spin again, real fast this time, Dawn said, grinning. 2.5 hours later, 2 of the walking estrogen bombs were ready to leave. Joyce, radiant in her dress and makeup, was awaiting her date, and Buffy, even more radiant in a gold sweater and black pants, was heading out to a spring break party at Sunnydale University. Spike had urged her to go have a little fun time, that he and Dawn would be fine on their own. That was when Joyce announced that Giles would be coming over to keep an eye on Dawn and attend to the undead English patient. Okay, Mom, Xander's here. Have fun on your date, Buffy announced as she bounded out the door. Spike followed her bouncing hair enviously, wishing he could go with her. He loved to watch her dance, but it would save him the humiliation of getting thrown through a window by that Warren Geek's sex bot. Good night, honey. Have a good time, Joyce called after her. He heard the sound of a car door closing, and then the vehicle drove off. Dawn was upstairs in her room, so he and Joyce were alone. Ignoring the protesting of his wounds, he rose to his feet and approached her. You really do look stunning in that dress, Joyce, he said honestly. Joyce flushed and smiled. Thank you, Spike. How are you feeling? The woman's smile widened. Really, really good. The headaches are gone, and I feel wonderful. Doc, have you on medication? He hedged. Joyce shrugged. I'm supposed to be taking Coumadin, but it makes my gums bleed something terrible. He frowned. And Joyce, if the doc says you should take it, maybe you need to talk to him about a different drug, if that one's not working for you. It's a blood thinner, Spike. I take aspirin instead. He gave her an incredulous look, and she rolled her eyes. I'm fine, really. And who's the mom here, anyway? You are, Joyce, he answered immediately. He might be a vampire, but he was a well-trained one. That's right, and I know what I'm doing, so don't worry about me. His vampire hearing caught the sound of a car pulling into the drive. Your date's here, Mum, he told her. She immediately smoothed her dress and fluffed her hair. How do I look? He gave her a tender smile. Radiant. She looked at him gratefully, and he added, And do know that if this bloke is anything but a perfect gentleman, I'll contract out to have someone eviscerate him and hand him his intestines, since I can't do it myself. Her smile faded, but then she laughed and shook her head, opening the door. Good night, Spike. Rupert will be here around 8. Keep Dawn and yourself out of trouble until then. What? That mean I can't sell you furniture and dance to rock music in my boxers? Joyce gave him a look that turned evil, and he suddenly knew where Buffy got her impish streak. You don't wear boxers, Spike. Giving him a final smile and ignoring his stunned look, she walked out to join her date. Jack.
Ian.
This week I am taking a road trip, as you know, but I'm
Yes.
letting you know. Driving to Illinois to visit some friends. I can't tell you how excited I am. I'm renting a car, driving cross country. The Darla script is not done. I had hoped to have that done by today. I think it's good. What is done so far? I think there's lots of good stuff in there. It's interesting. The episode guides tend to fall under like different genres depending on my perspective on the episode. There's sort of the personal anecdote episode guide. There's the emotional episode guide. There's the deep, meaningful, emotional episode guide. There's the documentary episode guide. There's a couple of different varieties of, I would say, genres. To me, the Darla one is coming out a little bit more documentary style, but it's fun, and I'm doing some things with it that I hadn't done before. I'm adding in some historical details because of all the flashbacks.
Okay.
Yeah, having a good time.
Super interesting because we haven't talked about it at all, so I have no idea what you have.
But it is also
planned.
It's also falling victim to my usual nonsense, which if you've been listening to the podcast for any length of time, you're very familiar with.
It's just a process, man. You'll get there.
Yes. Nonetheless, I feel like this upcoming 3 or 4 days is my first vacation from the trash fire that is 2020.
Yeah.
I've been trying to take weekends off and so forth, but something about getting in the car and getting the hell out of Dodge is giving me a sense of like battery refill time. You know what I mean?
And how long are you going for?
I'll be back Wednesday and back to work Thursday.
Okay.
Hoping to have things done. Hoping to have things done. That's all
Cool,
I'm going
man.
to say.
I hope you have a wonderful time, and just leave all of the stress of everything but behind and just have fun.
Yeah, it's funny. I tried to sell a monitor on Craigslist. Which
I've
was
heard this story.
which was a story I was going to include in here. I think it's interesting there's an ethical question at the core of the story that I think makes the story worth telling. Remind me to tell you the story about the chicken nugget, which is one of my greatest ethical quandaries. Is the chicken nugget story?
Have I heard that story?
I don't think you've heard that
really?
story. I may have told it on the
no.
podcast. Like we said, we repeat some stuff,
Yeah.
but it was an ethical quandary on the scale of the chicken nugget, ethics and chicken nuggets. Hey, there's the title of next week's, which we'll get into in a second. But
Yes.
what was funny was until the debacle with the monitor occurred, I was like, it should not have been that fun to go sell something on Craigslist, but just getting out of the house, getting out of the house and meeting another human being. We were both mask covered, but nonetheless mouth breathers. Mask covered because we were mouth breathers was more refreshing than it should have been. I do try and take the kids to the park and take them for walks and stuff like that, but you don't leave the neighborhood. You're not mobile. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I go out once or twice a week just to get food, and again, like I don't go very very far from my home, but there's something enjoyable about the fresh air and the sunlight. It does something to your brain. It switches on something. Yeah. It's just sad that I don't know. I've talked about it before, but it's just I feel like I'm putting my life at risk every time I go out. So there's always this thing in the back of my head. I'm like, I should not be here right now. This isn't safe. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to the day when I don't have to worry about that. And
I'm not in the vulnerable demographic for the virus, but I get nervous about it. If if I'm out in public or whatever, especially with this trip coming up, I was like, I can't get sick.
Yeah. It's still kind of risky for everyone though too, because yes, like the elderly and the immune compromised are more at risk, but some people have died that haven't had any health conditions. So it's kind of like Russian roulette, man. So like it's best to be safe.
Well, I'm just saying, if I'm scared, I totally get it. Like I understand.
And
but
I've been feeling.
Go ahead. Sorry. No, you.
I've been just the last couple of weeks because we had a really big spike in Melbourne recently. We went from. Like one day we had 500 new cases and then 400, then 600. I think we're close now to 20,000 cases all up. Not like current cases, but all up.
Yeah, in total.
Yeah, so we had a big escalation of lockdown procedures and whatnot the last couple of months. And it's just been hard, man. Like I'm feeling the anxiety of it all creeping back, but things are looking better now though. We're back to a more stable level, but I'm just
honestly I feel like when we decided to skip the podcast last week, I kind of missed it too for these similar reasons. This is like a stabilizing kind of thing to have a conversation with you and I mean, we talk almost every day, but we don't do this.
No,
you know what I mean? There's it's a different sort of mentality or approach or something. I don't know.
It takes us out of it for a little while. You know, we focus on doing something. We run our segments and whatnot.
Yeah,
and it's a nice distraction, and it's something positive. Like you know, we always get jittery beforehand, and I'm like, Ian, I don't want to do it, and you're like, I never want to either. and then we just do it, and then afterwards it's like this big sigh of, we did it.
Yeah,
and
I'm always like, oh, that was great, that was a lot of fun. But nonetheless, I get terrible stage fright whenever I do anything public.
But like I've said on many podcasts before, or well, when I say many, I've been on like 6 of them now, but this too shall pass, my friends. Let's just hold on and keep on going. It's going to be okay because it has to be.
Well, I am overjoyed to take this trip. I'm going to be paying at the pump and wearing my mask and spending time.
I hope you have a great time, man.
Spending time with someone I'm very excited to be spending some time with.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah. But I will not be here next week.
Yeah.
So you are flying solo.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a solo podcast.
Yay! I love this idea.
You know, we kind of joked about it on the last podcast. I believe you brought up the possibility, and I said something like, "That sounds terrifying. Let's do it." But I was kind of joking.
I wasn't.
But then, while we were prepping this week, we sort of had a serious conversation about it, and we both came to the conclusion that there's no real reason why I couldn't do it. And I'll be honest with you, Ian, and with all of you guys listening and watching, I am terrified. But that's the exact reason why I want to do it.
Yeah,
I want
that's-
to challenge myself. I want to stop trying to play it safe and be comfortable and all of those things. So look, it could be a freaking train wreck, but climb aboard, ladies and gentlemen, and let's just do it.
That's pretty much the operating principle of this podcast. Is that sounds terrifying? Let's do it.
Let's do it. I believe it was Aaron suggested we put that on the shirt, and I think we should.
Yeah, or
We totally
have it be the
should.
subtitle of Podcast of the Nerds.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we still have to update all of the graphics, but starting this year with the New Year's resolutions and the goals, which I owe everyone an update on, and we'll get to that at some point. It was just kind of all about engaging that fear response. You know?
Yeah. And my plan is to sort of face that head on, and I think, at least for right now, I think what I'm going to talk about is my insecurities and whatnot surrounding this. And what a great idea, putting my insecurities on the internet for strangers to hear, and yeah, that'd be a great time.
I've kind of been doing that for 6 years, so
Yeah.
welcome to the party, pal.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I feel more like Hans Gruber falling off the Nakatomi Tower.
They both apply. There will be a reading next week. I'm going to give you that file before we leave. So the Spike story is going to continue. Here is gone, Terri Botta. And I will be back the week after.
You better be. God damn it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. You were talking about, this feels like a contribution, a valuable thing, so forth. So, what I thought was, well, crap. We said we skipped the podcast because there wasn't a lot to talk about and all of that. And I was like, but based on what you just said, kind of behooves us to fill our weeks with experiences and value to be able to share with each other and,
yeah.
in the podcast.
We also gotta save conversations that we have for the podcast. You and I, we have so many conversations, and I'm like, this should be a podcast. What are we doing?
Well, I mean, I'm never gonna. One of the things I'm trying to do these days is not turn everything in my life into content.
Yeah,
I think that's a mistake. So I won't. We have had those conversations where it's like, man, we should have just started recording the podcast. But then, to me, the idea is then reshare that conversation if we feel it's of value. But I'm never gonna be like, hold on, I can't tell you this important thing that happened to me until we're recording.
Right.
But anyway, that's all. Bye, everyone. No, I'm just kidding. See, that was a callback.
Oh, hey! He did a bit. Yes.
But seriously, goodbye, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, and you will be seeing this face in next week sometime.
Jack will see you next week.